This is Agnes, the presenter of Sickle Cell Talks with Agnes. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So stay tuned because every week we'll be posting videos about any topic in sickle cell disease. We don't have set days yet, but just turn on the post notifications for you to be notified every time we post a video. Thank you and stay tuned. If you've got any questions, get in touch with me on social media or social media platforms. Thank you. At this point, we have Dr. Kongolo Kalumba, who's also an ASCA scientific advisor, who's going to also do a presentation. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for the opportunity of giving to me to make this presentation. And it's a pleasure for me to be here and to share this talk about sickle cell disease on Sickle Cell Day. It's always difficult after 3 hematologists and a number of people had spoken. Anyway, in French, usually said, la répétition, c'est la mère de la science. So the repetition is a mother of the science. So so my talk is basically sickle cell disease, the progress and challenges. So this is the overview, as you can see. So we're going to review the progress made so far to date, and then we'll discuss the challenges and the future perspective. So since 1910, Dr. James Eric is the one basically who discovered the sickle cell on the slide of a patient who came from Grenada after his intern. I've showed him this slide, abnormal slide. So since then, obviously sickle cell has been known before in Africa, but it didn't reach the Western literature until 1910 when James Eric published it. But from that time, you can see that some progress made. Obviously, it took so long time. This is 1910, and Dr. Pauling in 1949 is looking at the molecular in the hemoglobinopathy, and in 1956, basically the molecular, the hemoglobin structure was established, and the molecular disease was basically known. But it took like 40 years, and there was no much progress until really 1980s, when we saw that there was improvement after the initiation of a number of interventions, including a prophylactic oral penicillin vaccination against the encapsulated bacteria and newborn screening test. Obviously, as time goes, introduction of regular transfusion and hydroxyurea and the bone marrow transplant, and now we're looking at the gene therapy. So things start moving. So we can say that initially the progress was disappointingly slow. After the molecular structure has been established, there's no much, and some experts will argue that sickle cell disease has been neglected, although just being is also one of the most common genetic condition, monogenic condition we know. So this slide again just show the progress. So in 1990, from James Eric, and through you can see how the progress, but really the takeaway message is that is in the 1980s when things start really moving forward. And this slide, you can see again the impact of these interventions, which really started in the 1980s. And the life expectancy in a sickle cell disease patient has significantly improved then, initially going to below 5 years, and now reaching 40, 50 years on average in Western countries. However, having said that, there's still a gap. If you look at on your left side, so this is the slide which compare all Americans, so those with sickle cell disease compared to those without sickle cell disease. So there's still a gap in of decades between the life expectancy for both two groups. So obviously there's still work to do. So the other contributing factor for the improvement, obviously, our diagnostic method is significantly improved. But I have to mention that hemoglobinopathy, hemoglobin electrophoresis already started in the 50s. But now it is more sophisticated. You can do autonomous densitometry and genetic DNA testing. So all this facilities has significantly led to significant improvement. So the newborn screening test plays a significant role in improvement, because if you screen them and you do them early, then you can intervene. So almost intervention, so including oral penicillin and vaccination, cannot take place if you don't know whether the patient have a disease or not. So in the US, we can see here already in 1960, they started screening, and by the 2006, all 50 states of United States do universal screening. So in Europe as well, you can see this slide is a busy slide, but however, the European community also recognize the importance of newborn screening tests, and that's been very useful. So if we look at how that's impacted in the US, so you can see that the children up to younger than 4 years, there is significant reduction up to mid 40s, 44, 43% in mortality, which is quite significant. So you can see again here, so 68% age of 0 to 3 years, 39 from 4 to 9, and 24% from 10. So as older you become, the mortality tends, so you reduce the mortality below 5 years, but there's an increment of mortality above 5 years. But all this come again with contribution of some other scientists here, Dr. Heber, who initiated research on the concept of pathophysiology of sickle cell disease. In the past, the belief was that sickling was all it matters, but this has changed since Dr. Hebel has initiated this research on cell adhesions and obviously multi-organ dysfunction, as well as free radicals implication. So we just to review again, so I think my predecessor have already spoken about this. So there's obviously hemoglobin S polymerization, but you have other factors like sterile inflammation. So the role of white cell as well as a platelet. So increased adhesions and upregulation of some chemicals such as P-selectin, which basically lead to vascular endothelium dysfunction, contribute significantly. Obviously, the release of hemoglobin of course, in the serum, and the release of arginine also play a role in pulmonary hypertension, which is because of reduction of nitric oxide, which basically become a hallmark of adult complication with a significant risk of mortality. So in the new therapy, because of our understanding has changed, obviously that have led to improvement or significant initiation research to establish some other therapy. Hydroxyurea, I'm not going to repeat, is one we recognize has made a huge difference in the outcome of sickle cell disease. This has been published in 1995 MTA hydroxy study. And also the other therapy which modify your hemoglobin, so reduce your hemoglobin polymerization and modify your molecular defect. So include also voxelotor. There's a group of therapy which basically prevent oxidative stress. That's where egg-glutamine oral powder intervene. Although there's concern about compliance, because the patient has to take 2 to 3 sachets in a couple of times a day. And the therapy preventing additions, obviously, the main of this is crizanlizumab. Now, if you're looking at this, if you talk about COVID today, so one can say, look, COVID, we know that also lead to vascular dysfunction through upregulation of selectin P, whether someone of sickle cell may be at a high risk of this. Theoretically, yes. However, the data need to come in to support this. So this again, so the US study, so if you look at this, so about 100,000 people live in the US approximately have sickle cell disease, and it happened in 1 in 360, and for Black community, and 1 in 3 Black of African descent is born with sickle cell trait. So that's quite a significant number, and it's more than many rare disease, genetic or metabolic disease which have been screened. Now, factor which really have led to this improvement is the universal newborn screening program and initiation of prophylactic oral penicillin and vaccination against encapsulated bacteria, introduction of hydroxyurea, use of transcranial Doppler for the stroke and the silent stroke, and introduction of regular blood transfusion. Now, what are the challenges? All these are good, but if we look at this, so that progress in sickle cell disease has been very patchy, and there's certainly a lack of globalization. So the life expectancy is still so behind the normal population, although it has improved. And the one of the curative method, the therapy, which is a bone marrow transplant at the moment, has a limitation because of limited suitable donor availability. So it's about estimated about 10% who have access to bone marrow transplant. We hope that with gene therapy, these difficulties will basically be resolved, as there will be no need for suitable donor for the gene therapy. So the other challenges, so there's significant and rapid change in demographics in many countries due to increased immigration. And the last one is the psychosocial effect of sickle cell on individual and family level. This hasn't been really attracting many attention, although the current system is a holistic model where you involve the family and the child, looking at the whole angle, so mental as well as physical. But many countries don't have those facilities. Now, if we look at this, so in the world today, it's estimated that 400,000 babies are born with sickle cell disease each year, making it the most common genetic disease. Of those, 300,000 about are born in sub-Saharan Africa. And of those 300,000, 50 to 90% died before 5th birthday. Think about this. This is unbelievable. So it's quite starting so many lives being spent, but I think the effort hasn't been at the level of magnitude of the disease. Now, if you look at this slide, you can see Nigeria, Republic Democratic of Congo, Tanzania, Uganda, they really on top with a total of this. So the rest are in a Western country. This slide again does show that Africa is still leading in terms of birth prevalence of sickle cell disease, homozygote, compared to the rest of the world. Again, this is for heterozygote, is the same, and for obviously for deaf is the same too, which is striking too. Even in the US, people of sickle cell disease have less access to comprehensive team care than people who have other genetic diseases such as hemophilia or cystic fibrosis. This is from CDC. The reason for this is unclear. I think there's certainly need for more people to advocate for sickle cell disease. And I can't agree less that I think the disease has been somehow neglected in many places of the world. But what is striking is that the countries with low socioeconomic possibilities has been affected the most. So this again, we can see in Africa, survival rate under 5 years is about 10%, which is crazy compared to 96%, 99, high 90s, mid 90s in the US and the UK. So this slide just show you the effect of sickle cell disease on daily life. This is social psychological effect of sickle cell. More than half, they've been feeling that their activity been reduced, and you can see statistic. And this is again to show the contribution of newborn screening tests. This is a study done in France and the UK. So this just attract your attention. As we go, we can see here the medication. Well, of course, we're having new medication, but the prices, the cost of this medication is improving over time. And this, again, will have an impact on countries with low income. So This study on effect on psychology on patient on sickle cell. This is done with a review of 25 research paper done in Africa, Europe, and America. So there was all sorts of issues. So alteration of conjugal relations. I think people was talking about this, resistance of the parent to social and to the family, early death, anticipatory. I can't imagine people are living with sickle cells. Some of them lose their own children or the sibling. It can be so hard. So everything can be seen from depression to anxiety, feeling of rejection, stigma. So the certainly huge burden of psychological effect caused by the disease. So immigration is contributing to the Western country though. You can see here from this slide, people migrate, a number of them have sickle cell disease. In Australia, you can see previously in the early 1851 to 2019. So most people who migrated to Australia came from the UK. But this is kind of changing now. We have seen many African, you can see they're all the African, most of the big cities in Australia, they are also located. The complication of this too is also the understanding of the disease, because people came from different countries, they have a different background and cultural background. So, and this survey that show a number of people, up to 15%, can believe that the sickle cell is caused by God, or is because of God's will. So this, there's a work to do in terms of education. So where do you go from here? We need a global effort and coordination to really to have a real meaningful progress. So for the moment, the progress is there, yes, but it's patchy. Universal neonatal screening to be expanded to the country with poor resources, particularly with those with high prevalence. I was glad to hear Professor Anissa was starting a program in Africa, which is really things which should be done, because that's where the bigger number of sickle cell disease are coming from. We need to support all the testing, such as antenatal testing and prenatal diagnosis, particularly in a country with poor resources. Even prophylactic penicillin, most African countries do not have this access to these cheaper drugs. So this can be certainly, if there's a global coordination, be made available. And vaccination is, these are going to significantly reduce the mortality in the poor countries. We have to support a multidisciplinary model in a place where they cannot afford, and obviously promote and try to support the psychological effects of management of people with sickle cell. So in conclusion, so sickle cell is one of the most common monogenic inherited disorder affecting millions of people worldwide. And it is a multi-systemic disease of significant morbidity and mortality. Here, I would like to say, although the life expectancy is improving in the Western countries, this will lead to is leading also to increased morbidity as they get, the patient become adult, they have more morbidity related to the disease, as well as related to the therapy. The psychological burden is quite huge, and we need to address that. And obviously, although the progress has been made, but still a lot remains to be done. So I thank you for your time, and just for people who migrate from high risk countries, just remember, even if you remember to know your sickle cell disease status is very important, and that can really change a lot of things. Thank you.